Hello and welcome to the Negative Modifier 2025 Roundup, Year in Review, whatever the hell we wind up calling this, the actual show title. We did one last year, people liked it, so we're doing one again this year. I'm Charlie, your game master and editor around these parts, and I'm joined by the rest of the Negative Modifier cast. This is where I wait and see if they say anything and introduce themselves as part of this, taking cues. They're doing this to spite me at this point.
I'm Dylan. I think you guys probably know who I am. I usually play the weird characters.
That's very vague.
Play the weird characters. I usually don't do the fighting, but when I do,
Dylan, you're
I'm
being
just
modest. Dylan of Quick Draw fame at this point.
Oh,
Got him.
God. I hate him.
Hey, my name is Jad. You may have heard of me with some of my greatest hits as Kitten, Query, and
Sanguine.
I put the pal in malpractice.
Oh, let's use your real title, Jad. Player most likely to have their character killed during a Delta Green operation statistically.
Statistically, yes. I do love leaving it out on the field. I give it my 110%. Half the time, that 110% kind of just turns into 99s, or like the just pure fumbles. And it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me fresh. It keeps me relevant. Yeah.
And I am Alex. My most recent hits include getting well, I can't say it yet, but
You can. This goes up after Joel Korg will be over. We can talk about all of The Goat Must Burn.
oh well, we didn't record the Expanse stuff, did we?
We did not record the Expanse stuff.
Okay. Yeah, well, you might know me as the most recent person to get their head bashed in. So yeah, did I get my head bashed? Yes, I did. I got my head bashed in.
Yes,
yeah.
you were.
I was somebody's RBI.
You died so I could live.
Yeah.
The Quick Draw story.
Yeah.
And for that, Quick Draw doesn't thank you because he doesn't care.
But yeah.
Quick Draw. I stood on the corpses of my comrades to get ahead in life.
Yeah. So, what was I? Quantity, aka Agent RBI, because that was the end of my stats as far as that campaign goes.
Yeah. You also played Saga.
Oh
This year,
yes, Saga. Yep, Saga was a good one. Yeah, it's been a fun year. I think also I've had a pretty good run with deaths these campaigns, actually.
I mean, 1 and 2 this year is not bad. It's not to brag about either. You're not Jad sitting over there that went 2 for 2.
I was doing my absolute damnedest to keep Sanguine alive. I don't know.
One of your bonds became a lake.
I forgot about that.
Oh yeah. Oh, also, I mean, to be fair,
Saga wasn't, or no, it was Saga. Saga was just not helping. Saga wasn't helping on that island. Sorry. Huh?
Sanquid was your character, dude. Saga was Alex's character.
No, that's what I was saying.
Oh,
Like, Saga wasn't helping after that lighthouse incident. Because as I recall, Saga was not communicating very well. Then I had to use some of my mindfulness practices to go not self-medicate, but you know what I mean. Just like focus on myself.
Worst attempt to walk it off ever, I think, amongst an agent. Yeah.
But there was an attempt.
There was an attempt. I'll give you that. But yeah, for those of you who weren't listening last year, didn't listen to last year's version to this, we're going to talk about this year of Negative Modifier, and I guess potentially all the previous years of Negative Modifier. Some stuff that's Patreon exclusive. Most will be stuff that made it into kind of the general feed of things. Some stuff that we didn't record, et cetera, et cetera. Just tabletop RPGs in general, kind of our years on this topic in broad strokes. Some influences. Then we'll have some questions for people at the end. And that's a good enough transition to start with. As some of you may have noticed, we had a bit of a late start this year. The confusion or not well remembering of Joel Korg is because we started recording that in 2024 and finished that damn thing up in like February or March of 2025 because of like, there were those fires that happened near where two of us live and some other shit. And we actually also got a bad reminder in the hey, maybe we should play test games real quick before we start recording them. We did start messing with Imperial Maledictum as part of kind of hey, we should do something with this, and it just was not clicking. And we do have a recording for that. That just wasn't quite up to snuff for kind of the main release. Maybe I'll make it to Patreon someday or something down the road. I've had a chance of cleaning it up. But yeah, sorry. Thank you for bearing with us on that one. Hopefully we finished out the year strong with stuff. But yeah. Been a weird year in Negative Modifier recording. A lot of stuff I thought was kind of like, oh, this will be like 2 or 3 sessions, turned into 7 sessions, if not more. Running theme this year.
We're very meticulous and methodical.
I will say this. Whenever we complete an operation or kind of anything we run, it definitely feels like we wrung as much of it out of it as we possibly could. Like stones, I never thought someone would turn are like meticulously dissected, boxed up, and shipped off for further analysis. And I'm like, damn, okay.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, let's take the Yulkorg. I'm so sorry. I completely dropped the name. What?
Yulkorg, as we know when we were recording it, the goat must burn.
Okay. Because let's take like just the most recent release, the Goat Must Burn, Yulkorg, and everything else of sort. I still feel as if I almost felt like we didn't dive deep enough with what we got, we didn't dive deep enough with some of the options that we had. No, I'm confusing Yulkorg with fucking
wellness check.
Sorry.
Yeah,
there we go.
There was stuff that was missing Yulkorg, definitely. You got kind of, I'd say, like, anytime y'all get like 85% or more of the stuff, like, I do think this comes like a grading scale where it's like to pass the operation, you probably only need a C. But like once you're getting to B territory, it's like, yeah, you're doing decent of the stuff you missed, but like you've got enough of the things that like the final encounters will probably be a little bit easier. You have a better understanding of things. Like you found most of the mysteries, maybe not all the answer to those mysteries, but also like they're not necessarily there to kind of get the end result you need type of thing. And both of them, was wellness check a real low B, like B minus C plus territory for that type of stuff? Abso-fucking-lutely. But you still got there and do some impressive rolling. You managed to kind of muscle through at the end.
Yeah, but wellness check was also our first like Delta Green mission that we did not complete.
I mean, like I know in the post show I said like it was not completed. I'm not sure I don't not stand by that statement. Operation was completed. You just never got into the rest of the operation. And then as we've had more time from that to kind of think about it, the more I've realized it, like part of me initially was like, oh, I should have like been like, oh, by the way, do you want to look around? I'm like, no, Quick Draw is not smart enough or cares enough to be like, maybe there's something larger at play here. It was I killed the monster. We're good to go. I'm out. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense for how that op ended. That's who was left standing at the end. That's how it would end.
One person had just gotten their head bashed in and the other ran away. And I heard them getting eaten in the distance by a fucking gator. I'm done here.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm just going to tell them where they need to send another team to clean it up.
Yeah.
Quick Draw is nothing if not lazy.
I think it was laziness in hindsight. Like, it's more just like his world's not big enough to understand that, like, maybe there's something more important to this operation than the dude that can't die easy or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. He's kind of like the mind that like I'm here to kill things, and if there's nothing more to kill, then like I'm done.
Yeah.
Kill or protect people.
Yeah.
I know that you hated that character as a person, as a fictional person. But like how did you feel how did you feel like playing that character? Because that was so out of your normal repertoire.
I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like, I mean, I had fun playing him. I mean, I hated him a lot, and I'd hoped that he had died by the end of the operation. But I think
again, I tried so hard, Dylan.
I know. And in the end, Alex paid for my sins.
Not before you did a fucking sass kickflip. Well, that
yeah,
was a kickflip. That was like a flip.
That's the thing. I used him to get behind the monster, and so he was in front of the monster. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to play him. Definitely not like the type of character I'm used to playing and that I like to play. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I like to play characters that are not very good at fighting, and are just kind of like on the investigative side, or they're good at like fighting in a way that they'll kill you if they sneak up on you. Otherwise, they're probably fucked. Whereas, I mean, quick draw was kick the door down, shoot everybody, and win a stand up fight. It was very interesting trying to role play somebody that didn't have to think about what was going on.
I definitely found myself thinking of that Simpsons quote where it's like I was hired to lead, not to read. I'm like, yeah, that thought process definitely resonates with how I think of quick draw.
Yeah, like I mean, he's not necessarily like he's not happy that people died on his watch, but like also shit happens.
Yeah, but he's like mad from like it makes me look bad at my job perspective, not these people are dead.
Exactly.
But you could also ration that it was not his job to keep them alive. It was his job to mission.
Yeah, in his mind, like he completed the work, like the job was complete, even if it wasn't.
I mean, like, yeah, at the same time, too, like, primary objective succeeded. The job you were all brought down to Florida to do was done, technically.
True.
You found out what happened to Ackerman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ending. Like, typically, after most of our operations, I'm very happy with the endings. I'm not upset with that ending or dislike it, but it's grown on me more as time's gone on. Where I'm like, yeah, what's my favorite ending? I'm like, no, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I can go back and, like, in hindsight, justify a bunch of decisions about how I handled the ending. I'm like, no, that was the right call on the point. Like, it made sense for the character, kind of the arc we were on at that point. Yeah, it that is how that op was going to end, given the situation everyone found themselves in.
It was interesting to kind of step out of my box, I guess, to kind of try to be more of a investigative character. But I feel as if the way that I engage with Delta Green more is definitely through role play. I find that I feel more comfortable engaging with Delta Green through role play and a lot more of like the social aspects of it. With Query, trying to be a manipulative character was a little odd. Just because there were times where I didn't feel as if I was really succeeding with just kind of like how I wanted to portray a person who's like trying to maneuver her way to the top or trying to get what she wants.
Yeah, you're actually touching on something I'll probably talk about later on. We'll talk about it now. I got to play in a couple Delta Green games that were not part of our stuff, and I kind of and as doing that, I kind of started to realize you kind of like it's the joke I had of like hitter versus brain character or something like that, or kind of your muscle versus your brain characters. There's actually kind of a third and a fourth character that fall into that archetype I've learned in hindsight, and they still fall into those two categories, but like there is under brain, you kind of have like utility and investigator, and you play a lot of utility characters where it's like it's the doctor, it's the like they have a very specific set of skills, they have a lot of skills that have a lot of kind of general use, and then your true brains are out there being like, yes, my 80 in archaeology lets me know this stuff about it. It's like, cool, how is that in any way, shape, or form helpful to this operation? Who knows? We'll find out though. And it's kind of interesting to kind of see that play out in Wellness Check, because I think it was kind of your first non-utility character in some ways. It was never kind of more of the kind of like social aspects of it without kind of the extra skills to kind of back you up on the function, if that makes any sense. It was very much a kind of RP and kind of charisma leaning character in a lot of ways.
Which I did like in kind of being able to explore that aspect characters and whatnot. I know that I play more of like a chaotic probing character where it's, I mean, like Firestarter is just kind of my fall behind or my fallback archetype of like, hey, this is a person just trying to make this end goal happen however he can, but trying to avoid recreating that kind of fallback character is a little difficult sometimes just when you love a character so much. But
I get it. Yeah.
I liked Query. I miss God, what was her name? When we played Cult, that like pre-gen character.
Oh, the doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
Not so good doctor.
Still one of my favorite characters that I've ran, especially considering that was interesting because it was more pre-gen than it was like a self-crafted one. I don't know. It's interesting to like have evidence of how I have grown as a player and to be able to like look back on that, on these like aspects, and like trying not to critique yourself over like, oh, well, you could have done this, or I should have done this, or maybe I could tone that down or bring this up and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the phrase I always use for that type of stuff is we played the games we played at the time, like no sense kind of going back and like what ifing it into oblivion. It was fun. Stories turned out well in hindsight type of thing. There's
Yeah.
always stuff you could do differently. That's true for life, that's true for games, it's true for anything. The cool thing is we have audio recordings of our time with these games. It's like, hey, this is how it played out. You can go back and listen to how it went back every time. And like with the power of hindsight, you can be, oh, I'd do that differently. But it's also like, I didn't have hindsight at that point in time. That's how I thought at that point in time. That's kind of cool.
Yet I'm still so deeply entwined, or deeply at the mercy of the dice roll.
That's what makes this fun for me, I guess. But yeah,
Oh, that's
you are cursed as hell. I will give you that.
You are fucking cursed, dude. It's wild.
because I know I've played games where like behind a game master screen or behind a DM screen, like I know that judging by like a GM's physical face that I should have rolled something terrible, but they decided to give me like a higher whatever the heck. There is something very engaging with playing through a system that all of our rules are public and there's no fucking going back. It's brutal and it's honest, and it really just makes you think and have to react, which I absolutely love. And I have a solid crew to just make that happen with, or just practice that or bounce off of.
This is what makes it fun.
Indeed.
To rein this back in a little bit, we want to talk about Wellness Check or Yulkorg in more detail, I guess, or kind of have we said all we have to say in those in the post shows and all that?
Well, I can't bring up something because I didn't really say much on it. Wellness check. I believe. Am I responsible for the most player deaths this year?
How are you responsible for?
I opened the window that set off the grenades in the wall.
Okay, I have a note about that of this being the year of boom. Yeah, I do have a note about that. I don't think of those as player deaths necessarily. That's more kind of technically yes, but
I mean,
yes, you have the most PvP kills technically. In the same way that like backing a tank up through the spawn zone in Battlefield is technically PvP.
Yeah, again, accidental but default. But yes, I did not mean it. It just accidentally, man, we need some light. Open the window, boom.
Yeah, I guess I don't think of it that way because it was an intended shuffle mechanic. Like, I think the fucking funniest part of all of this is that in the cut content for Yulkorg, there is a segment of me telling you three exactly what is going to happen to you in Wellness Check without ever saying I'm gonna blow a bunch of your characters up. There's a 5-minute monologue for me or something like that of me like after the whole grenade with the brick and the thing inside of a Yulkorg happened, and you were all like, how the fuck could you do that? I said something like, the circus of pain and misery I have planned for the start of Wellness Check will make this seem like nothing type of thing. And you all are like, yeah, sure, whatever. There's a reason one of the episode descriptions for Yulkorg is, fun fact, we recorded this before Wellness Check.
I do recall this.
Yes. I do find myself wondering, like, if we'd run these things in reverse, because by the end of Wellness Check, you were definitely kind of more hesitant to kind of split up and stuff like that. I find myself kind of curious what how you'd have handled Yulkorg in some ways. It's kind of cool having that kind of time capsule moment where we have a thing that's airing-wise out of order, so you as players are in different kind of points than you were at the end of Wellness Check, which is where you are now, technically, versus when we recorded that type of stuff. And it's kind of neat, I think. It also kind of helps separate the idea of, like, the Delta Green timeline is weird, and, like, yeah, don't worry too much about it. There's a reason we don't give hard dates to stuff all that frequently. Makes it more loosey-goosey that way. But, yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting, too, because it could have, like, our hesitancy of splitting up the party could just be a mixture of, in Yule Korg, I feel like we had a bit more of an understanding of the danger levels associated with our player archetypes. And so having Saga and Sanguine together felt a little bit more like capable than I'm so sorry, Dylan, I cannot remember your Spark. Than Spark. And like and Spark even said like that they were not the person to be handling like firearms, despite the fact that I think it was Spark that ended up killing the witch.
Spark was lying to you guys. Spark was like an NSA operative that was very proficient at killing people. She just had to sneak up on them. The entire time she was acting like she was mostly incompetent at things while she was very competent.
Remember, she sawed that dude's head off with a rope wire.
Well, here's the thing.
Oh.
So I guess it worked.
This is like, is this what it felt like when like you guys found out my character had a different name the whole time?
Yeah,
Is that that feeling? Finding out that you were like super proficient? This is what that feels like.
Yeah. Oh no, I love it when you three just start like lying about your character to each other. Where it's like, yeah, no, they're not this. I'm sitting there with the character sheet for me being like, where you going with this? So I can see the stats you have right now. Where are you going with this? No, I also think it's kind of funny having those two operations in the same year because they are so fundamentally different in how they treat the unnatural and kind of the supernatural aspects of their respective operations. Like, Yule Korg gets right to there's something fucking weird going on.
Well, we kind of found that out pretty early.
Yeah, no, like literally the first episode that goes up, you drink something, get your ass kicked by the rest of the group, and like something like you vomit up something slithery. We got like 4 or 5 episodes into Wellness Check. It's still like, is there even something weird here aside from the fact that some veteran booby trapped their apartment to blow up type of thing? Like, I don't know. And then suddenly it's okay, yeah, there's absolutely something weird going on right now. Welcome to the Nazi wizard's secret lair. It's like, okay, yeah, there's something here. But like even then, it's still like, what is going on? Yule Korg, there's a cult. 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 There's this weird art collective up the hill. Man, that's the most cult-looking compound show I could think of at the time, isn't it? It sure is. And
the interactions with that art collective and how I handled just being able to, or how I handled juggling the concept of like, all right, I have a fucking voice speaking to me in my head that no one else can hear. And there's a person who is just absolutely just very suspicious. I feel like that was just kind of like the player or just the role playing of like, I'm stumbling ass backwards into the solution of like what this scene needs to have.
I think we've talked about this too. We don't do a lot of hiding information from each other. Like I'll shoot the occasional message after a session to be like, hey, here's some stuff that's up or something like that. So Dylan and Alex were completely aware of the explanation of, oh, by the way, you're hearing shit in your head now. Had to be like, we don't know shit.
It is very interesting that like that, because that operation would have gone significantly different, I think, because one thing that happened at the very beginning was we tried that drink and then you had us all make POW checks. And I think that I crit and puked it up immediately. And that's what resulted in us going to Sanguine's room and beating him with a chair.
Oh, because I just kept drinking.
Yeah, I think I passed mine, but I didn't crit. So it took me a bit.
Well, yeah, because you went into the bathroom and just threw it up. And then Sanguine didn't want to, I believe. So we beat him up and fucking forced him to throw up.
With Epicac.
Yeah.
Well, like the concept of Sanguine for me was very, very loosely based on like Hugh Laurie and House, kind of a substance issue, and just having a little bit more of a I'm not a good doctor.
You're good at being a doctor, you're not a good person.
Yes. but that's why I say very loosely based.
Or you understand kind of the like the ethical gray areas that come with being a good doctor.
Mixed in with like, I'm not practicing in a hospital right now, so really what board or what higher authority do I have to answer for?
Oh yeah, no, when we were recording that stuff, this is completely unimportant in some ways. I was going down a rabbit hole of like doing research for some other stuff, some stuff about like just kind of like the differences between like in hospital board reviewed like medical practices and stuff like that, and just the fucking wild west that is private practice, specifically plastic surgery, or kind of like the more cosmetic based things. And holy fuck, like that, I'm like, it was one of those ones where I'm like, okay, cool. So like, so long as you're just not like organ harvesting people on the table, you can kind of get away with anything so long as people aren't just dropping constantly on you. That's horrifying and fascinating. And then you were playing this character that kind of fit into that category where I'm like, yeah, no, they're totally the person that'd be doing some of these procedures because someone was like, what if I back the money dump truck up to your office and get you to do this for me?
That's why I picked plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
I will say, Jed, you have a talent at playing like really, really complex characters that are just assholes and really engaging.
It's hard for me to play a character that I'm personally not invested in. If I find them boring, then it's like, oh no, I don't know how to do this.
That's fair.
Like I would not know how to approach quick draw whatsoever. I'm not saying that like quick draw is like not engaging or whatever the heck, but like the way that I see quick draws like goals and things like that is very narrow.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think your version of quick draw would be totally different than Dylan's, but I think you'd come up with an interesting character. I suspect you would play quick draw the way I play one of my beloved classes, which is the CIA wet workers, where just it's like they are so ridiculously goal oriented. They just kind of do wild shit because it's always worked out for them in the past. Because that's what that fucking job is, where it's like when your job is to blow up like train bridges and basically do like just years in field as like not terrorists, but totally terrorist activities. This is like, you just kind of, it's like, okay, we do this weird shit now. Why? Because it works. You're a little bit unhinged if you do this job because it works.
I think it's important to say that I don't think any of us support the CIA.
No.
Just want to get that out of the way.
Really fun Delta Green class. At best, morally bad organization. You want to talk about MK Ultra? I'd love to talk about MK Ultra.
Yeah.
I want to reset the clock on asking someone that plays Delta Green if they know what the fuck MK Ultra is.
I sure do.
I think one of my favorite things Dennis Detweiler complains about on social media is whenever someone sends him an email about like, hey, wasn't sure if you knew what about MK Ultra was. I thought it might be important for your Delta Green game. And him being like, I'm aware. I've heard of it. It's like every 9 months or so someone does it. And he's like, it was posted about, he's like, and here's the thing I sent back to them that's somehow worse than MK Ultra. And about half the time I'm like, hey, I knew about that. Another half the time I'm like, well, Wikipedia hole, here we come. What new unfathomable horror am I going to learn about today?
I mean, like, at that point in time, it's like, hey, let's talk about Operation Paperclip. Fucking,
we didn't even get to that part. We didn't even talk about that on the post show for it. Fucking Newman, our behind the scenes antagonist, wound up in the States because of Operation Paperclip.
I hate it.
There was a whole little subplot about that.
If you're listening to this and you don't know what Operation Paperclip is, look it up.
I mean, the summary is pretty basic. The U.S. hired a bunch of Nazi scientists that forgave their war crimes for a boost on the space race, amongst other things.
Yep.
There's no long summary of that. That's exactly what happened.
The U.S. does some questionable things sometimes. A lot of the time.
Are you implying a large government might occasionally do something that people might find repulsive, repugnant, or bad?
I would never.
I would never. As a Delta Green player, I would never question the government.
Never.
I am always the first to say that we can trust the government.
that's because you're a Delta Green agent.
Well, yeah. As has been established, Dylan is. a Delta Green agent that sits in on this podcast to keep an eye on the rest of us.
When we get too close, we just...
That's when Dylan plays Agent Quick Draw. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chad. When we get too close, that's when he's like, oh, I guess I'll play a hitter this operation. Be a shame if I introduce some chaos into this. Look at my distracting character.
Does that mean Dylan is the assigned FBI agent to our files?
I'm so sorry.
I want to apologize for my search history.
I'm not sure if this joke has ever made its way out of the behind the scenes podcast jokes.
Yeah. This has been going on for years, by the way.
Yes.
This is not a new development.
I was going to say, yes, we're going to joke about Dylan being a Delta Green agent because occasionally Dylan will just kind of say something or we'll learn something with Dylan. We're like, wait, what the fuck? Explain yourself, secret agent man.
And you think, haha, this is such a funny little like cast joke or whatever the heck. But in reality, this is why he's such a good Delta Green agent, is because he can hide in plain sight.
I still fucking think about that subway picture from a couple of years back that was like for a fucking like psychic service or something. And there's a green, Delta Green ass triangle on it. Like, as part of the fucking ad. I don't believe Delta Green is real, but I really hope whoever fucking made that graphic at least plays. Like, it was a real subway ad that was printed out there. And it was like, blah, 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 psychic services, green ass triangle on the left-hand side of it. And you're like, I know this is just a coincidence, but come the fuck on, Delta Green.
I wouldn't worry too much about that.
You all heard that. All you people listening to this, you heard that. Kind of shitty dust that got him the reputation for being our Delta Green agent. Before Dylan shallow graves all three of us. Yeah, that's more or less what we did this year. Year of Boom. I promise next year we'll have actually fuck it, I promise nothing in my quest to get one of you to chop another one of your hands off.
You so desperately want it to happen.
I guess it's worth re-explaining this joke too. Where like, it's one thing if I like blew off the hand with the grenade. That's part of the mechanics. Like, this is partially a joke and partially a conversation I had with someone where like, it's born of the idea of you've created a situation that is so believable and the players have bought in so completely that maybe not that I kind of forget, but like, yeah, we have to chop off this character's hand or they're going to die. And that's the morally good decision we're going to make in this decision, like, or this situation. Like, we've weighed the consequences, and yeah, it's time to inflict horrific bodily harm that may kill this character in a desperate attempt to save them. Like that, it's kind of like a compliment of like how well players have bought into that, but how good your situation is. Where like, we're not going to try and tabletop RPG bullshit our way out of this. No, it's time to get the big knife and some biting leather and roll some dice.
I fully thought that you were putting me in that situation when Query had run into the alligator. I really thought that I was going to be able to save myself by cutting off an arm.
Yeah, that's like one of those ones where it's like, that's cheap, I guess. Like I could fucking put your leg in a bear trap in any kind of way I could. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, you have to cut your hand off. Like, no, it's because of a series of events, some of in your control, some reactive, just kind of the story has led to this point where you three are there and it's like, we gotta saw his hand off, obviously. Like, it's more, as much as I joke, it's more kind of a goal for me as a game master where it's like, it's not always kind of a hand. It's like, no, you should always try and create situations and like environments and like situations that are so believable that your players can like have that level of buy-in, that like, they're not looking around for the tabletop RPG out. They're going, oh shit, they're going to die. What reasonable solution do we come up with that like works in this exact second? We only have seconds to think about this. And it's led to the joke of I want to go when you chop one of each other's hands off. But yeah, I think it's like the arm in the hole of the lighthouse with the grenade and back and forthing on that. It has the same vibe where it's like, oh God, I'm going to lose my hand. I'm a plastic surgeon. I need that hand. The implications, if I survived this, what they would have for me long term are bad.
You almost got me once cutting my hand off too. That was back when I was playing Florence, I think.
I don't remember who it was, but yeah, something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, it was Florence because I got cables in my arm, but
Yes.
then somebody rolled a crit out of nowhere to just rip them out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's more kind of if I had a game master philosophy or kind of how I try and run stuff, it's to try and create situations where like as much as I have my fun kind of playing up my jigsaw saw persona of like, oh, what terrors will I inflict on my players? The goal is always to try and be like, here's the situation, here's how tense it is, here's how believable it is in this moment type of thing. We'll laugh about it after the fact once this is all played out kind of thing. But like, what are you gonna do? Chopping your hand off is a reasonable option, honestly. That's how fucked up the situation is. But yeah.
We'll get there.
Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe I'll find a better version of chopping the hand off. We'll see.
I was gonna say it could be getting one of us to kill one another, but that's already happened a lot.
I seem to find myself in a lot of PvP situations.
Yeah, we do tend to find that we need to fight your characters towards the end, or because you've gotten unlucky and you're being controlled by something malicious.
This is not on purpose.
Quite simple, Jad. Stop making characters that are so killable.
The foundation in which I make a character is based off of a writing tip that I received like a while back, and where you set yourself two conflicting goals or two conflicting desires just because like one people are complex, and so like just because like I have a doctor who is ultimately like a decent person in like rep or relative to like regular life, like he wants to continue his practice and be wealthy, but he also just wants to be able to like not be restricted by his life choices or his like life. God, what's the word I'm looking for?
Now, I kind of get what you're saying. Like, saying what's interesting because he's one of those characters that, like, he has no reason to be part of Delta Green, ergo, they're probably blackmailing him or something because there's lots to blackmail. And, like, while some characters do Delta Green things for noble reasons, he's doing them because he has a lot in his mind to lose. And it's like, yeah, the fate of the world, that's secondary in some ways. That makes it interesting kind of thing. And there's some fun kind of friction there.
Or like with the way that like I played Query was that Query wants to uphold and exemplify journalistic integrity, but she's willing to lie to get the scoop or like manipulate the people around her to get her scoop.
Yeah. Duplicity.
Yes. Like that was I think that was like my clearest conflicting goals or conflicting desires. I don't know. I'm still kind of futzing around with that.
Yeah, we play games that are good for that. And speaking of other games, I guess, we play a bunch of stuff that's not wind up as part of the podcast. Figured y'all might be curious about other stuff we're getting up to in tabletop RPGs outside of what we wind up recording. We played The Expanse this year. We did not wind up recording it. That was kind of a play test for that. Dylan actually ran that. That was our first time with the group of me not running something for us. I think we overall liked The Expanse, I think.
Yeah, I know we talked about it briefly, but what did you guys think of the system? I know the rules are kind of a lot, and it's kind of hard to get invested in them for just like a 1 to 3 shot. But
I think we were clicking by the end. I think my issue with the age system has always been it's twofold, I guess. I have two issues with it. It's the stunts are so much a part of their system, and like if you're in a situation which doesn't make you to be doing if stunts don't make sense or like the stunts are bad, it's like, okay, cool, you're rolling really well, but like, yeah, you dodged extra good with some flourish on top of it. Versus like that thing ended with me doing super damage to something because I rolled really well, and that was cool. But yeah, it's kind of how inconsistent the like payoff and value of the stunts occasionally feels compared, and then that paired with the fortune system, which is the not because there's two health systems in that game. There's the fortune, and then there's the actual health system. And like I had a character that's super high fortune comparatively for a low level character, and like that's not game breaking, but it lets you do some dumb shit. Definitely plays to my angle of things. And I like that. I like both those things about age, but it kind of makes for kind of a inconsistent experience, I think, sometimes. I think it evens out some when you get kind of later into character progression. especially at low level, it feels very swingy in some ways. But overall, I'm a fan of the age system. I think the Expanse is one of the better implementations of it.
That's my thought too.
Yeah.
That's basically my thought process on it.
I like working with the Expanse. It was interesting to kind of poke and probe the possibilities of what functions the Expanse universe. Like, how high science can we get? Does this stick with sci-fi, or are we now treading into the space, treading into the space of like science fantasy? And I think a little bit more of the familiarity, at least on my end, with the stunt system probably just will come in time with just familiarity with the game, just like playing the game. Real fun that the stunt system was not explained to me to the point where like spending stunts mean that there's some wheel that's turning in the background.
Yeah, don't worry about that wheel.
Don't worry about it.
You should spend all the stunts you want. You want to look as cool as possible all the time.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
my drone navigation was sick as fuck.
Your drone navigation was absolutely sick as fuck.
I mean, Dylan, do you want to say it or should I? The rules were right there. You could have read them at any point in time.
Yes, I understand that. I mean, like, but at the same time, I don't know, man. Like, I don't need a Journey song like playing in the background ominously as I play through the game. You know?
Yeah, it's fine.
Don't worry about it.
It's kind of a way to deal with the fact that you can make yourself stunt a lot. And it kind of plays with the idea that the GM will throw like challenges at you. But as the story progresses, because at the end of like jobs, right, that track resets, but not until the job is over. So session to session, it might stay persistent, and the higher it gets, eventually you get to what is called like an epic churn, where it's like an event that can be story changing, like a ship blowing up or something. Or I was gonna say a spoiler for the Expanse, but at its barest bones, it's when like some really crazy shit happens. I will also say I'm actually surprised that somebody died. I was of the impression that it was very difficult for characters to die in that game, and I have revised my stance on that.
You presented me a puzzle with 3 holes that were limb-shaped. And so my thought process
I'm just going to write this down real quick. Limb-shaped holes are your weakness. Interesting.
Limb-shaped hole sounds like a sick indie band name, by the way.
Yeah, we're a Junji Ito cover band, I guess.
Sick reference. Let's go.
Wow, I really do have a weakness for limb-shaped holes, huh? Either way.
In hindsight, yeah, actually. This has definitely been the year of Chad putting his arm in things that did not go well for him in tabletop RPG. We need to stop talking about this. This is going down a path.
I will say one thing Alex was claiming the most character deaths this year. I will also say that there was one that was not recorded, and that was the Expanse. He was the one to die.
Yep. That's probably why I was saying that I had the most deaths, but
no. Alex didn't die. He was the victim of inadequate medical practice.
Yes. Because we had Charlie and Jad for like 6 rounds. I think Charlie came in on like the last 2 rounds to try to help. But for 6 rounds,
okay, I am carrying Jad's character. I am doing damage. I am running from a mechanized monster. I am sorry, listeners, you don't get to hear all of this shit. And I will also point out, I was the one that fucking killed this thing in the end, too. Am I saying I was the MVP of this encounter? No. But I did everything in my character's power to pull out a W on this one.
It is true. It was just very... There were 6 rounds, and the rolls just weren't there, and he died. And I was so surprised.
You have to remember, I'm cursed.
You were cursed, but you were also super injured, so you had a bunch of penalties too.
And it was a bleed out situation too. Yeah, like this was not like when someone here flubbed a first aid roll and then killed another character. Oh wait, that was you, Chad, wasn't it?
With my doctor character,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what I'm hearing is don't let Chad play healers ever.
It's help before ? Well, I mean, like if we put myself in a fantasy setting and I end up being a necromancer, maybe we'll be able to turn the table.
I like to imagine that your curse on this topic will extend in some way where, like, rather than raising skeletal minions, we'll find some way in the system that, like, your character is just, like, straight up bring people back to life. Not raising the dead. They keep failing to do that. And they're like, God fucking damn it. Why do I keep bringing all my minions back to, like, full health, full life with perfect health and, like, fixing their ailments and shit by accident? There's like, I'm going back to my wife and or family. Goodbye, kind healer. And you're like, no, my skeleton army.
No, the rib would be that I'm bringing people back to life, but I'm not actually healing them. So really, I'm just extending their pain and suffering. It's like, hey, I'm back to life, and I still have this stab wound. Why can't I die? It's like, you're under my thrall. I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to do that.
So the Expanse. Another way in the weeds.
I'm down for another.
There would need to be some lore refamiliarizing, I think, across the board for us, I think, because that is a setting I think that does a little bit better if you have a better sense of kind of the political conflict, I guess, in some ways. We have to do one of our weird primer episodes of, so let's talk about the Expanse, know the setting, not the game, or something like we did for 40K. I got a video game for that coming out. Maybe we'll do something with that. Timing and whatnot.
Oh, synergy. Hell yeah.
Maybe we'll see. I guess we're on the space topic. Coriolis the Great Dark came out this year. I got to mess around with that some. I like that game a lot. I'm giving it a year or so before I get into kind of our list of games we should check out. We've already done Coriolis, The Third Horizon. It feels like a natural fit for us. There is a lot about that game I like. I really like the fact that a campaign I ran, not for this, but for a different group, the stuff I got about where they were going with that setting for the new game and stuff like that, I am shocked how much I got right just based on my understanding of the setting. Like, the major details I got wrong, but like, hey, this is where I think a bunch of this stuff was going. They went that direction. I'm like, this is neat. This is really cool. I like that they kind of like, they continue the parts of the setting I liked a lot. They fixed a lot of my issues with Coriolis Third Horizon setting in the new setting. I think they kind of did a good job of reining that back in while giving you a lot more space to kind of do things. I think my one complaint from kind of a setting perspective is the long distance space travel of that universe is kind of weird, and it feels like they're going to fix that in a campaign book they're going to write in a year or two type of thing, where it's like, oh, by the way, we got FTL back. This fixes a big topic, and like, it's expensive. Not everyone has it, but like, you're no longer stuck taking the big ships anymore by default. Like, you can in theory have maybe not like the same level of versatility, but like you can do short jumps or something now for a bit more exploration. But I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing. Same basic system. I need to play around with it more. They've got this whole like bird thing in the game that replaces the magic that game has, which again, it feels like they're going to put the magic back in at some point of people being able to do magical stuff, because it feels like there's a void there where it's like, okay, yeah, we were doing this. People had knockoff Jedi powers. We're going to nerf them some to kind of bring it more in line with the setting's darker, more grounded and gritty kind of feelings to it. But like, there's a void that feels like they're going to fill it with that again, which would make a certain amount of sense for that game as well as things kind of establish themselves. But yeah, I overall like it. It's been well supported out of the gate. I think all the Kickstarter stuff is now officially delivered, so they can kind of move forward with that, which is good. The art for it is just freely at its best too, which I know is not saying anything new. People that listen to this are not familiar with, but holy crap, I love that game's look so much. Describing it as like the railroad construction meets like whaling stories meets space is such an accurate description, and it's so cool. Anyone else play anything?
I feel like there was something that it's called, but I was trying to remember, but then like sidetrack. Of course, I'm easily sidetracked.
Me and Dylan can fight about Daggerheart for a minute or two if you want to remember something.
Yeah, go. Just shoot on that. Let me try to fucking.
We'll probably talk about this in a full episode at some point, because I think we have a lot more to say on this one that makes sense to kind of shoehorn in here. But hey, Dylan, I heard you played some Daggerheart.
I did. I'm actually in a campaign for Daggerheart right now.
Ooh.
I also played some Daggerheart. You have played more Daggerheart than I have. How are you feeling about Daggerheart at this point in time?
I mean, I've kind of told you a little bit about how I find myself kind of like flip-flopping between liking Daggerheart and then hating it and then liking it again and then hating it. I do think it's like far from a perfect system, but I think there's a lot of things that they kind of get right. And I had mentioned this to you at some point that I think that they get the martial caster class disparity. They kind of fix it. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
There's a lot I like about Daggerheart, and a lot of it I don't like. I think the book makes promises that the game does not ultimately fulfill. Like, I think it tries to pitch itself as like, hey, do you want to run this super narrative kind of like talky campaign or something that emulates kind of like the actual plays you like and stuff like that, but maybe don't have the experience as a tabletop RPG player to play. This game will let you do that. And as someone who played in some games for that with people that were definitely looking for that, but did not have the tabletop RPG skills to get that, it doesn't do that for shit. And I think kind of it's like Powered by the Apocalypse. It definitely felt like we were offloading a lot of that game onto the GM unfairly. And like I did my research on that game, so I was actually capable of understanding it really well. There was a weird amount of homework making that game fun, I found too. Like I enjoyed my time with it overall, but like I read the crap out of the core rules before playing it and like understood how the fate, the fear, the kind of the whole balance of that worked to the how my character worked on a kind of base level. And you and I differ on this some, but like, yeah, I get what you mean by they kind of found a decent way of evening out the martial versus spellcaster characters. I found it kind of went the opposite direction some, where it kind of favored martial characters a little bit more. I didn't play it as high levels as you did, obviously, but like, I don't know, like based on what I was kind of theory crafting for, just kind of messing around with it, something felt kind of off to me, I guess. I think how narrative flow are you playing it? Like, are you allowed to like keep doing actions until you get a fear style? You kind of doing it in rounds.
Yeah. So, well, the way we have it is we have the optional rule where we technically kind of have a round where each player character gets to act 3 times. And if somebody's acted 3 times, they can't act until everybody else has had 3 actions. But usually what happens is if somebody succeeds with hope, they do their action and then somebody else in the party does an action until we roll a fear. But, you know, our GM tends to have a lot of fear. So if we've been having turns that are too long, he'll just interrupt and spotlight some people, which I think is a pretty good use of fear. We often have the GM near max fear. So
I like the dice system a lot. I like 2D anything systems though with some frequency, and it's as far as fun dice to go. That's D12s. I can't remember.
D12s.
Yeah, it's a fun dice to roll. I think it works well for it. I didn't love its advantage system in concept, but in practice, I'm like, this is fine. Yeah, I don't know. The group I was playing with, we had to go through different interpretations of what the turns ultimately meant. So it's definitely a reading of that book where you can just keep beating on something until you roll a fear. And if you're lucky like I am, that means you're getting a ton of actions in before anything bad can happen to you.
Yeah, if the GM has no fear, there definitely is like you'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But in practice, there should be situation like there are ways the GM generates a lot of fear. Like taking rests generates fear.
Yeah.
A short rest generates like a D4, I think. Whereas a long rest generates a D4 plus the amount of players in the game. So, you know, if the GM kind of has to know how to manage fear.
Yeah, and I think that's managing a meta currency, I actually think is kind of hard. And definitely in the group I was playing with, it became this weird game of me versus the GM because he was using basically all the fear that was being generated to counteract my character. That like maybe they were a tad busted at the level we were playing at. I didn't think I was doing anything special. I was just rolling really well with some frequency, and it definitely kind of felt like he was pooling resources specifically to kind of slow down my character, which I got and wasn't mad about, but it kind of was this. It definitely felt like it was me versus the GM for a chunk of it in a not great way. And even we both were kind of like, this is getting ridiculous. Everyone else is just kind of here as I'm trying to slow down your character from just wiping the board of enemies because you're rolling well. And it find it kind of felt weirdly swingy in that regard. I know you and I differ on the caster thing. I'm not sure my group knew the kind of you can take some status effects to help push your rolls for that. I think that would help them out some, but
Yeah, because you have 2 health bars. You have health
yeah.
and stress, and really, people need to know which their class relies on, and they have to use their abilities. I mean, that's really what it comes down
Yeah,
to.
I think that was definitely something I ran into as well, was the having to remind people, it's like, "Oh, by the way, you have these abilities, fucking use them." Like, something about just how okay, that may be worth talking about. The game pitches itself as kind of new player friendly. I don't think it is actually. There's a lot of kind of character creation that, like, seems I'd have fun with it because I like building characters and stuff, but, like, I don't think it's a good just drop in and play type of game the way some people thought it was going to be, and I think, like, to have an effective character, you have to manage a there's what, like, 4 meta currencies in that game technically, but your armor, you've got your fear/hope, whatever it's called, there's the stress, like, I'm forgetting one that, like, it's all stuff you have to manage that aren't, like, obvious they're not even health bars, they're just kind of things you spend in certain circumstances to do things, and depending on, like yeah, it's better than spell slots is, but, like, if you're not used to kind of balancing
So
extra health bars, it can become a whole problem.
a lot of so health is the most important thing you need to
Yeah.
be careful of, because if you hit 0, you have to make a death move. Then you have stress, where stressing out isn't actually the worst, but anytime you would take stress, and there are like things that generate stress. Getting hit by certain kinds of weapons automatically generate stress. Certain like enemies can generate stress. If you take stress and you're stressed out, or you can't like spend the stress, you take damage instead. And that game kind of works in a weird way where you roll damage for your attacks, and then however much you roll has one of 3 results, or I guess one of 4 results, because you can take 1 point of damage, 2 points of damage, or 3 points of damage.
There's a whole threshold system where depending on your character, you can have, like, a super high threshold, so if you're getting hit a bunch, it doesn't matter, actually.
Well, it does, because even if you have, like, if I'm, say I have, like, a to hit to 8 of 8, right?
Yeah.
I'm wearing full plate armor. They hit me, they can deal 2 damage to me, and I still have to spend armor to make sure they don't deal damage to me. Because anything under your first threshold is 1 point of damage. Anything under your second threshold is 2, and anything over your second threshold is 3. Now, you were saying you were playing a Guardian where that doesn't actually matter too much for you.
Yeah, I was capable of dropping thresholds down by 2 with a lot of frequency, so I was just shrugging off hits half the time.
Yeah, so but eventually that runs out, because you have 4 rounds, and I think like at max you'll have 6 rounds, and that's total rounds per long rest. So if you attack 3 times over 2 combats, you attack 3 times in each of them, that ability is gone until you long rest.
I think I had something else. Let me just drop it down by a point no matter what. But yeah,
You probably had something that you spend stress to do it. There are a bunch of I'm playing one of those characters right now, and there are a bunch of abilities that let them drop stress and other resources to spend more armor.
I think I had something too where it was like I perpetually had a lot of hope in that game, or the meta currency of hope. So it was like burn a hope, ignore 1 level of the damage you took or something. So I was just using that constantly, assuming I'd have like a constant supply of hope, and I did because I'm lucky. And yeah, a certain amount of personal luck doesn't negate the mechanic, but it was one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, this feels a little busted.
There's definitely something to say about the hope mechanic being kind of a little too swingy at times, because it does not feel good to be playing in a game where you continuously roll really high, but it's really high with fear. So fuck you. You never generate hope, and you don't get to do like cool stuff with it. That is definitely an issue in the game, and I think probably like one of my biggest critiques of the game. But overall, I think that it's a good system. I think you're probably right that it's not very new user friendly. But this is going to sound kind of cruel. I don't really care. I've been playing D&D forever and tabletop role-playing games, and I'm not likely to be introducing anyone new to the system or D&D in a long time. So, I mean, I get, like, it is a fair critique if you're looking at it as, like, a game design, from a game design perspective.
Fair or not, I assume anything made by the Critical Role crowd is designed, at least partially, to be someone's first tabletop RPG.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, for me, it doesn't matter. And for most of the people that I know who play tabletops, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
It's not that, like, I don't care about new players. Like, if I was introducing more people to D&D and, like, tabletop games, it would probably matter a little more to me. But because I'm not, and, you know, I don't know, I've been role-playing for almost 2 decades now.
I completely get it. I would not describe anyone on the Negative Modifier podcast as new to tabletop RPGs. The games we are comfortable tackling are very different than someone who's going, what's this tabletop RPG shit I keep hearing about?
Yes.
As we all know, Cult is the best first tabletop RPG.
Cult is the game you play with a friend that you really don't want to get used to playing RPGs for the first time.
Cult, the ultimate gatekeeping of tabletop RPGs game.
Listen, if somebody introduced D&D to me and it was like Cult, I wouldn't have played. Like, I wouldn't have stuck around, man. I have an appreciation for it now, but
oh yeah, no.
You come to like 13-year-old me and you set me up with a game of Cult, and I'm looking at everybody else like, what the fuck are we doing?
Wrong with all of you. Yeah, no, I get that. I've been kind of holding up to get to the end of your campaign to kind of talk about Daggerheart in more depth, just because I find the game fascinating. Like I had a very visceral reaction after the first playing because it's got this whole like card deck builder system that I'm like, man, this feels like it could be fucking predatory from like a monetization standpoint. And to their credit, it hasn't been yet, but part of me kind of thinks that's because that game didn't land as big as I think people thought it was going to at the same time.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, like it definitely feels that thing was the people thought that thing was going to wreck the industry for a little bit, and it did not. I'm not saying it's not doing well, but like does not seem to have had the impact people were expecting it to, which I also find fascinating. And we'll talk about that in depth some other time after I played it more, and obviously you finished off your campaign with it. How does it feel in a long-term campaign? Like, how does progression feel over time?
So there's no like experience points or anything. It is just checkpoint leveling. And it depends on the GM, obviously. We're actually going fairly slow with the leveling, but that's kind of, we already know what we need to do to level up, but we've been slow to work at it because they're hard goals. But I've found that I like the things you get with advancement. You know, a +1 in that game feels like it's very substantial. Getting a new experience is really useful. And then the domain cards, getting more abilities is cool because a lot of the abilities are unique and fun. But there are some abilities that like I don't know why you'd ever take them. They're kind of like so niche and unlikely to happen. Like one of the ones I was looking at requires you to roll a crit, and then everybody around you gets to like clear a stress or gain a hope. And you're technically more likely to roll a crit in this game than you are in D&D, but like in practice, it hasn't felt that way. So it's, you know, the progression is good. The real like juicy stuff is when you jump one tier to the next.
So when I read through that stuff in the progression, it definitely read to me at least like you're supposed to multi-class in this game. Has that been your experience so far or not so much?
No, we haven't even up to tier, so multi-classing isn't really an option because you have to be tier 2, I think.
Yeah.
But I will note that if you multi-class, you don't get your class's core feature for that tier. So you don't get the specialization or the mastery of your class. You're trading off.
I'm not sure I realized that, so that makes more sense than, yeah, because I remember reading it being like, like, okay, so no one's getting to max level with this because there's no reason not to multi-class, and like you get so much out of the first few levels of this. That makes more sense then, yeah. Yeah, probably more on Daggerheart sometime down the line, I suppose. Anyone else got any tabletop RPG stuff to talk about?
I don't know. Do we want to briefly talk about BTM? It seems like it's kind of been on our minds.
Yes, we can talk about BTM.
Yeah, I don't have anything other in particular, I think, on my end.
Yeah, longtime listeners may remember we tried to do a VTM thing back in the day that did not go well. Patrons, you can look forward to at least a session 0 for the kind of VTM playtest we're doing behind the scenes that actually Jad is running. And
Hello.
Jad, what's it like having both me and Dylan as players for VTM?
It's very intimidating. I'm not gonna lie, just because it is something where the player familiarity is stronger than the storyteller familiarity. But at the same time, I don't feel uncomfortable asking you guys for assistance or help with kind of explaining things, or at least just kind of clearing up some questions or anything else like that. If anything, this is going to be an interesting learning experience on my end, as well as Alex's end, which I'm excited to kind of dive into Vampire the Masquerade with, just because at this point it's just like, hey, you don't know very much about this game system. I know weird bits and pieces through osmosis, but not really a strong cohesive playthrough, because at one point in time we did try to do a VTM playthrough and ended up playing a completely different board game that was a little wild.
That was before Negpod even got founded. Yeah.
Which I think was like, again, like no hater or anything else of the sort, but it was like a once I realized it was like, what's happening, and it kind of took me out of like the mindset of Vampire the Masquerade at that moment.
It did, yeah. That's a while ago. This is actually before me and Jad started even doing podcast stuff together. We played a precursor to a Vampire the Masquerade game that maybe we should talk about that game at some point, kind of broad senses, because it's a perfect example of why I hate GM tools in a lot of ways, where it's like, oh, this game you can then use to make like dungeons for stuff. And I'm like, yeah, except once you realize you're playing a game inside of your game, you can start metagaming the secondary game, because it's not designed to actually work in all game systems, even though it pitches itself as that was like House on the Hill, technically, right? Or something like that.
Yes. The thing is, like, Vampire the Masquerade really isn't a dungeon crawler.
No.
That's where it kind of got interesting. It didn't translate.
That feels like, yeah, that definitely, in hindsight, it definitely felt like someone who'd only ever played Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons, like, trying to run a VTM thing. And it was like, oh, now time for the dungeon crawl. And it was like, this is not what this game is about at all.
But with a narrative-based game, I feel like this is kind of up my alley, and it really is just kind of like getting over the first hurdle of, hey, we're doing this. Although I think I'm going to get my hands on a physical copy of the book, because trying to navigate through PDFs and yada yada, there's something that just doesn't translate well personally with me scrolling through and having all these different things when I could just manually flip.
Oh yeah, no, fuck the VTM.
Through that myself.
The VTM 5e book PDFs. There's something about them that just makes them weird. I want to make the joke about Green Ronin books back when we were talking about The Expanse. But yeah, this has been a year of our side games involving, like, man, why is this publisher bad at laying out books?
But ultimately, I'm excited. Nervous, but excited. Nerve just being part of that excitement, I guess, just because it's like, hey, I haven't GM'd a game in years. The fact that y'all are familiar with the game is cool, because I can kind of experiment and kind of do some stuff. And the fact that we're not playing a fledgling game and it's going to be a neonate game, great. I'm into it. Like, it's fun having something where it's like, oh man, you wake up, how did you become a vampire, or whatever the hell? Like, no, we don't need that. we already know that Uncle Ben is dead. Spider-Man spoilers, but that's a core aspect. That's a core aspect of that character. We do not need another movie where we experience Uncle Ben's death. Let's just get to the nitty-gritty of, hey, this character has been active in the field, and this is something that we are dipping into mid-story.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, that was actually one of the mistakes I made with our playtest, was trying to do simultaneously a game that worked for neonates and for fledglings simultaneously. In hindsight, I'm like, you should have just gone full neonate. It would have made more sense. I think this is one of those situations where any game that involves me and Dylan as players, you probably have to play as neonates just because we know too much BTM at this point.
And I think that, yeah, I think that's fine. Like,
Yeah,
play with what you got.
I think there's a lot of pressure with some people to kind of do like, oh, let's do like the start of the story. With video, just fucking be vampires from the jump. Be vampires that have figured out to be vampires. It's more fun. I get the impulse to do like the beginner story for vampires. Don't just have them be good at being vampires already. It's more fun. Get to the fun parts at least faster.
Which, it, like, circling back to Delta Green, I do like the fact that there are options for, like, hey, this is a Delta Green veteran package. This person has just been doing shit. Add a couple more skill points here and there. Take a flaw. You're good.
I got to play in a Delta Green, not a full on campaign. I got brought in for one step of a campaign. Basically, it was supposed to be like a, hey, this is the character's first exposure to Delta Green, but I want to have like some veteran players that have played Delta Green be like the Delta Green agents on the ground analyzing them, and that is something I'd recommend. That was actually a lot of fun to do something like that. I'd be curious if you could do something with VTM like that, but yeah, I think Delta Green mixes them better though too. But yeah,
Honestly, I think that would be kind of like a fun thing to run in a sense, just because you've had games with us playing multiple characters.
Yeah.
And that was a hoot and a holler. Again, I know that this happened multiple years ago, but I promise I'm never going to do a New Zealand accent ever again.
Never say never, Chad.
Or just maybe I'll. I mean, like, I do live in the wonderful city of Los Angeles. Maybe I'll join an improv. Maybe that'll fine tune my accent wielding capabilities.
How'd this get worse? He's been working on it. He took classes.
I paid for classes.
He paid for money. He took the How to Get Better New Zealand Accent classes. It was a 5-week intensive. How is this worse? Yeah, we seem to be messing around with VTM, or at least WAD in general, or World of Darkness, as I probably should call, because WAD's a terrible thing to say out loud. We seem to be messing around with that. I am a big fan of Hunter, as people probably can guess, because of course I love Hunter. I like Hunter 5 a lot, so we'll probably do something with WAD down the line at some point in time. I think I've gotten much more aggressive at making sure we play test games at this point, a little bit more systems more before we put them in the podcast hopper of, hey, we're recording stuff for this, just because sometimes stuff doesn't work out and that messes with the production schedule. And it is also just fun to run some games that are just kind of like, hey, mess around some. Like, you don't have to be 100% on for this the entire time, even though we oddly seem to wind up being as on as normal.
We have some really good players.
Yes. We've all played a game or two, I suppose.
We can adapt.
And now that's going to bring our kind of, let's call it free-form discussions, if you will, to a close on this one, which means it's now time for the questions that were sent in and we've picked up across the year. In some cases, we're going to credit questions certain people that sent them in. In other cases, we've got asked the same question in a couple different ways, multiple times across the year type of things. So, yeah, I'll deal with one right off the bat that we've been asked a couple times this year and also a couple times in the past about if we've ever thought about trying to package up some of the operations we do for Delta Green specifically, but anything else we do for dispersal, I guess, or kind of for listener usage or kind of other people's usage. The answer to that is Delta Green does not want you selling Delta Green stuff. Arc Dream does not want you selling Delta Green stuff. And if I'm being honest, the notes I have for all of our operations are straight up nightmare fuel that only make sense to me. And the amount of work that would go into making them even remotely usable for a person that does not exist in my brain would be a significant amount of undertaking that we don't have time for right now, just based on kind of how small the team is and stuff like that, and editing duties and whatnot. But it's been something I've thought about, and I know we've been asked a couple times. Like, people seem to vibe with wellness check a lot this year, and maybe I'll try and do something with that. But it is something we've considered. I guarantee if I released the notes I do to run these things, you would have the mixed reaction of, okay, Charlie is insane, and also, how does he keep that much information about this op just in his head and not in notes? And that's kind of why I've never kind of released that stuff, because yeah, a lot of it is just based on an astronomical amount of research I do that kind of helps me flesh it out. And the notes are either just links to help me remember certain stuff, or kind of like, hey, here's some key details. They're messy, is what I'm trying to say. They are not in a state that would be useful to other people. And kind of building off that, we got the question of wellness check. It was based off something, or if it's kind of a runnable thing. That is a negative modifier original. It is kind of my riff on Last Things Last in some ways. Like, there is some our dear Mr. Bauman is vaguely referenced actually as part of wellness check, and a very easy to miss kind of Easter egg unless you're a crazy Delta Green person. The whole idea of kind of veteran or unfinished business of some type of Delta Green is something I enjoy playing around with. We don't do a lot of cowboy stuff at this point in time, but we probably will sometime down the line. And I like kind of setting some of that stuff up in the background as like, oh, hey, there's more going on with the setting than just the stuff we're playing through at this point in time type of thing. But yeah, that one's that. And I think I mentioned this in the post show for that. Very much inspired by the show Slow Horses that I am just a huge fan of. And like with a lot of the kind of stuff I write just for the podcast, it is based on something I found fascinating. And after researching, was like, oh shit, there's kind of a horror story here I can play around with, or something like that. Like, if you're not familiar with the retirement nightmare that is Florida, go look up The Village. It's unsettling. Like, that's in a lot of ways something that should not be allowed to exist. It's like a weird mini town inside of multiple towns that like plays havoc with the local economy and stuff like that, because like it's like a theme park but stranger. That one out of the way first. Moving on to more general questions for the rest of the cast, though, and myself included. What are your favorite NPCs or lore? I'm going to open this up from kind of the negative modifier canon, and also just Delta Green in general, or anything other stuff we've played.
I mean, I gotta say the food. Well, no, that's a meme.
That's a remnant, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it started as a meme, but then it got added as an actual character. Nikolai Tracksuit, right? Like, that was
Nikolai. Not in negative modifier canon yet. I've made jokes about him though.
Okay. I mean, Tranche is a very interesting character. I mean, I know she's your character, but for me, she's essentially been an NPC in some ways. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think back. I mean, are we talking about just this year, or like all of negative modifier lore?
All of negative modifier lore. I was gonna say, like, if I ever make a character more beloved than Century Danny, I'll have succeeded as a GM, I think.
Century Danny was great.
I didn't realize how true Century Danny could be. And it hurts knowing people who are just coming across and now learning about people who exhibit Century Danny lifestyles.
Century Danny is born of me knowing some people that were Century Danny as a teenager and stuff like that. So yeah, like the fact there are more Century Dannys now out there since that set of episodes aired is, yeah, like
I do love Shecky Yoder. Truly a phenomenal NPC of a man. He's got one job, and by God, he's gonna do it.
He's gonna fuck with these players, pilot this boat.
Never have I been so mad at an NPC.
Shecky Yoder is like living proof of why I can never release my notes, because he was like 80% improv, 20% like, yeah, if they need a boat captain, you fucking use Shecky Yoder. What the fuck do I care? Have I ever explained the name to you three?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, this is fucking this is fucking meta Charlie ass lore at this point.
I love how Goldfish Brain me remembers you telling the story of Shecky Yoder, but like
Yeah.
We will not be able to retain any other further information about an upcoming mission or upcoming fucking anything.
Yeah. So yeah, this may be in the post show for Yulkorg. It's been long enough that I don't actually remember if we talked about this or not yet, and I haven't gotten around to editing that just yet at time of recording. But that name is a joke from when I back in my roadie days, which plays into another topic we'll talk about later as part of these questions. There was a hypothetical stagehand / roadie that the crew I used to work with a bunch came up with called Shecky Yoder, where like the joke was like, yeah, you could pay a lot of money to machine this correctly and have it built to spec and all this type of stuff, or you could have fucking Shecky Yoder hammer this shit out in the back room with like a handsaw and some nails, and it'll work, but it's not gonna be great. And like, it is a name that is stuck in my brain and refuses to go away. So whenever I need just kind of like a weird off-kilter NPC character that's very good at one thing, Shecky Yoder comes out, and the fact that Shecky Yoder is now part of the Negmod canon is absolutely wild to me at this point.
You busted out that Shecky Yoder voice and caught me off guard. I have never been caught off guard on this
Going
game
back
so
and editing
long.
those episodes, you got that because I was trying my hardest, and this will play into another thing of trying to keep you from going to the island until you'd found the book because of all the booby traps. And I'm like, ah, fuck it, they're going to the island. Pirate voice it is. Fuck them. We're doing this. We're doing this.
And this is why you don't split the party. But then you had to be like, oh yeah, we can't go on this boat all at once. We gotta split the party.
I had to do something to stop all three of you being on the booby trapped island.
Listen, I did fine.
Spark was perfectly safe.
Yeah, because you hid pertinent information from us, like your firearm skills and your competency.
Listen, that is fair. That is a fair assessment of that. But I also found important information and called you right as you got blown up.
I guess, like, so we got other favorite lore stuff we want to talk about. We just want to go right into talking about splitting the party. We got a question about that is all too pertinent for Wellness Check to talk about.
The ongoing ties of Nyarlathotep just being a recurring force of nature within the overarching storyline that connects like Negative Modifier together has been absolutely enthralling, only because I really had to calm down Query in the way that, like, after dealing with not Florence's fucking puppet future granddaughter, like Meat Husk, and then dealing with the other residents of whatever the hell, all I wanted to do was just constantly turn off all the lights in every single room just to see what would happen. Because if, in terms of player hooks, you got me. For sure.
Oh, yeah, no, our reoccurring character of Nyarlathotep. I'm now curious if you figured out what causes him to be a reoccurring thing yet.
I'm not gonna point fingers, but is their name rhyme with Dylan?
No, actually.
I feel like Dylan's characters always have a special relationship with Nyarlathotep every single time.
I mean, Florence obviously does at this point, but that's just kind of canon at this point. No, that there's a very specific thing you can point to that if it's not in the operation, there's a significantly lesser chance Nyarlathotep shows up in any way, shape, or form. But if it is there, decent chance he's at least shown up to be like, it's me, Nyarlathotep. I'm not the main antagonist here, but I'm a watching.
Yeah, except he's running around being fucking Agent Nick Fury Lethotep. I'm building a team, but it's like the most mentally unbalanced people that he can find. Because the fact that it's just like, hey, we're gonna make a pact with fucking Quick Draw. It's like, well, we're fucked.
I really like that Stephen Alziz is in our canon at this point. He's always been part of Delta Green, but I'm really glad he's established and is still around in Negative Modifier. I love Stephen Alziz.
I still have no idea. Well, I could learn who that is. I know it came in through season 2, but like,
well-respected nightclub owner, and nothing more.
Okay.
He is a man of business and legitimate business at that. I'm definitely not wearing a shirt for the club he owns right now while we record this. Fucking Club Apocalypse, let's go!
One last thing, I'm also wildly intrigued of the Delta Green cleanup crew. Like, who are these people?
I just love the fact there's an assumption there's a cleanup crew.
You fucking you told us there was a cleanup crew. Stop fucking with the library. The cleanup crew will get it.
Hey, Dylan, do you want to explain that situation? I know you know the answer.
I mean, my main assumption is that there's not a cleanup crew just to stop fucking with things before you become a Vector. Or Tranche is going to come deal with it.
Both are safe assumptions. Remember, Tranche has her own secret bunker full of weird shit in the middle of nowhere.
Well, here we fucking go, I guess.
Tranche is definitely not prone to weird behavior every once in a while. No.
I'm waiting for the day that Tranche snaps and kills everyone.
Who knows what time will tell.
Surprise, we work for Majestic now.
I would do a lot of things to my players. I would never unwittingly make them Majestic agents. I have standards. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
Fuck Majestic. Only reason I love the Jack Frost as much as I do is because you get to murder so many Majestic people as the GS, the handler for that operation. You're just like, I get to kill like 30 people that work for Majestic? Hell yeah. Fuck Majestic. They're my favorite. Oh god, I hate them so much. Part of Delta Green lore. Like you may have noticed, they've not shown up in our canon at all because I am truly of the belief that Majestic is dead and dusted because they were fucking idiots.
I truly thought that like Jack Frost was going to be some weird thing where it's like, all right, cool, we're going to play a Majestic series.
I mean, we might at some point. There are rules for it, but also there's something I have planned that we'll eventually get around to. Probably that. I'm not sure I'd make you Majestic agents for it, but you will be doing at least some slightly Majestic things, and or Majestic might show up in it. They're very tied to old Delta Green, kind of the 90s and earlier era stuff of Delta Green in my mind. Like the whole post reforming the program in lore and stuff like that feels like Majestic's pretty much dead at that point. Also, program's just fucking Majestic also too.
Damn, that is two characters that have just absolutely had not a good time either taking a walk or taking a run.
Yeah. All right, so this one came in from the Discord. I'll read it verbatim as best I can. There tends to be a social stigma on splitting the parties for a lot of tabletop RPG games. But in Delta Green, it can be quite useful with as much canvassing and investigating must be done in a short time span. How's the table feel about that? In Yulkorg, the party ended up splitting up and learning various secrets alone. Do you find being apart raises the tension or diffuses it?
Ask that question.
What do we think of splitting the party, I guess, is the general thing. I got kind of a little preamble I want to throw out of the way before we kind of dig into it. The stigma from splitting the party comes from D&D and D&D likes, because balancing encounters in those games is a pain in the ass, and when you design an encounter, having only half the party show up and trying to fix it on the fly either means it's a very easy encounter or you get fucked up because it's a little bit too hard. It's also one of the awkward ones of a martial class getting jumped by two assassins, probably survivable. A wizard of the same level might get got before it can do anything because it's not designed to be a frontlining character. I think the stigma thing is very much a byproduct of games that make balance kind of a pain in the ass and or are very combat centric and kind of teach you as players not to run from situations with some frequency. I think Delta Green and lots of other games like it very much. From a balance perspective, it's more in kind of intrinsically makes sense to both the handler and the players, where like, hey, if you're outnumbered 2-1 and they're just humans with guns, yeah, you might be able to kind of muscle your way through this, but like it's still two people with guns versus one person with guns. They have the numbers on you. And even like Quick Draw in that situation probably can do okay, but like guns are bad and will fuck your day up type of situation. I think the stigma mostly comes from games that like require grids and meticulous balancing and planning. And it's like, oh, only half the party showed up to this ambush. How do I quickly make this not super deadly? Oh no, I failed at that task. And that kind of reinforces the stigma at that point. As I kind of talked about earlier, Yulkorg's fascinating because I kind of deliberately split the party there to try and help you out by not throwing you on the booby trap island without any information you need to kind of navigate the booby traps. And that's kind of where the timeline in that spot gets a little finicky, where it's like, yeah, it mostly lines up to kind of activities that are going on, but at the same time, the jumping back and forth is very deliberately me trying to get you information that you were going to totally miss unless you kind of went down some more paths that that was kind of some, call it handler fuckery, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, where it's like, oh god, they need this information or this activity is much fucking harder. And that's not totally fair to throw at them blind because there's been nothing to establish booby traps all over this island ahead of time type of thing. But I'm also generally for splitting up. I think it's weird. I think we're living in a post wellness check era where enough weird stuff has happened. I am curious to see moving forward how willing you three are to kind of split the party with some frequency, but also wellness check is kind of wellness check, and that will not be the norm moving forward. But also, if you'd split up, that grenade would have gotten a lot less people hypothetically too. Just throwing that out there.
I'm thinking that a big part of the reason we didn't split up in wellness check, especially at the beginning, is because it seemed like that was kind of the premise of us all needing to be there.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of the reason we didn't want to split up is because we ended up with one hitter and two researchers. So the danger of splitting up was much higher than it is in other operations we've done.
And that one's fascinating to me too, because the danger you actually face from after the jump, after the kind of like the initial trap, there's not that many active dangers. It's designed to be kind of mostly kind of a sandbox of research and kind of finding your way to things. Like the actual combats are pretty, I don't want to say fenced off because hey, weird shit happens and alligators exist, but like, yeah, the actual dangers to you as players was relatively low across that thing, hypothetically, at least in theory, from a GM perspective.
I think canonically, we have not had any major issues or major hesitations with splitting the party. If anything, like we tend to split the party just because we understand that like we have specific skill sets and strengths that we know we can excel in and just kind of approach stuff. I think wellness check was definitely a throw us for a loop sort of situation, just because of the grand opening of making it rain grenades. So that just kind of haunted our player concepts.
Oh no, and I think you behaved appropriately based off that too. Yeah, it's one of those things where I can make a lot of jokes about it in hindsight, but in the moment I was definitely playing up the like more grenades could be anywhere angle of it.
Because I still think about the time that we were trying to get into the biker bar and how Saga was trying to decode something. Saga was working on something in the car, if I recall correctly, and it was myself and Spark, where I was like, I'm going to go in by myself and see if I could turn on the good old charm, and that failed miserably. And it wasn't until Spark's involvement that we really were able to turn the tables on getting the information that we needed from that biker bar.
Oh, quick draw.
Oh, that was quick draw. Sorry. Yes, quick draw. Spark was Yulkorg.
Spark was at home, not dealing with this shit.
I mean, given Spark's profession, probably not actually. But
true.
I personally, I do love the tension that a split party can create, because the lighthouse, despite the fact that that was like the turning point for the downfall of my character, because I really did like Sanguine, it really was engaging to have the opportunity and setup for suddenly that kind of character shift where I become actively antagonistic to the progress of the party.
Yeah, that's the first time we had like someone go full vector, I guess, in an operation, isn't it?
Did we end up killing you?
No, he got killed by Withering.
Right.
My favorite of the spells. Yeah, no, speaking kind of and using Yulkorg as the prime example for this, as a handler, I love the split up because it lets you have very kind of personal moments with those individual characters and kind of play up them as characters in some ways. I love how Yulkorg plays out in that way. I love kind of the back and forth I got to do where it's like, hey, they're on this island and I know why I'm bouncing back and forth so much, but it creates this kind of fun weird pacing and tension of like, why the fuck is Charlie going back and forth with his characters so much? It's because I know I need to get you the information about the booby trap as fast as I fucking can. But also it's like, no, I can't give it away. This is what we're doing type of thing. This is how it would play out normally type of situation. But like, let's try and get them some of the information and let's see how Dylan's doing. Okay, yeah, Dylan's on this path. That makes sense. What are they doing over here? Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh god, they got to this before Dylan got to this thing. Fuck. Let's jump back to Dylan real quick. Also, we're a podcast. It makes for some nice tension at that point too. Like bouncing back and forth is a nice narrative element and kind of. I would describe it as editing and pacing at that point, except it was done kind of as we were playing it, so it's more just pacing. Like it's something I would probably do in editing the kind of episode, generally speaking, just for better podcast episode in some ways.
Honestly, I kind of like the tension, like you were saying, in terms of like going back and forth between the two, because like having you like do the whole part of like, oh, you found the book that talks about all the explosive shit. And then at the same time, we're like, oh, hey, there's this brick here. Haha, let's just go ahead and pull stuff out. Like that, like back and forth felt really fun. Like it felt very cinematic in some way.
And like what's happening, you're like, why the fuck is this happening? And then you're like, oh, this is why this was happening. Yeah, it's something I actually recommend. Like if you can set that up a situation, you can bounce back and forth where like we're playing a little bit fast and loose. Where it's like, yeah, I'm not expecting the guys to not have some informational bleed from one kind of situation to another, but also like when it mattered, you were very good about being like, oh, our characters don't know this. Time to pull the brick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're generally for splitting the party and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it works especially well in Delta Green.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer that there's a lot of that stigma comes from games that don't balance well or kind of are harder to balance on the handler/GM side of things, just because there's nothing worse from a handler or GM perspective as an encounter that feels too easy, and then like you have to find some way of like tempering player expectations because you balanced wrong. And then the flip side of killing your wizard because they weren't prepared for 4 assassins in the library and you rolled really well before they got a fireball off also sucks in its own way, where it's like, it's not a fun fight for anyone involved. It just is.
Especially with Delta Green and the fact that you're just a person. Like, it's intriguing because like all the games that we have were just some guy with a problem or some guy dealing with a problem. And there's like limits to like what we're doing. And whatnot. Like Coriolis, I think, was like one of our first introductions to maybe like even having some sort of like mystic power. Vampire the Masquerade is interesting because now that we're removing ourselves from like we are human into like we are post-human.
Yeah, VTM's weird where I think like on a power scaling of a negative modifier characters that were the most powerful, VTM characters are probably up there. Sumbarim characters, which none of you played, are probably up there too, but like you're touching on why I don't like lots of fantasy games. I like the power creep that happens in them is always kind of a bit of a problem for me, I guess. I really like games where the goblin you fought at base level is still kind of technically just as dangerous 10 levels later. You're just way better at dealing with them and mitigating them, but like a bad round still means you're bleeding out at the end of the hallway type of thing because you missed your blocks and they got some good hits in type of thing. I always like that in games where it's like you're never safe. You're just better at dealing with a situation than you were earlier on type of thing. And I think I'd gravitate in general towards those types of games.
I think like, especially just because we only really touched on the surface of like what cult can be. As you were kind of explaining a couple of the other like background aspects of cult and how it gets a little bit more on like the psychic elements of it, being a little bit more on like the reality altering aspect, that kind of intrigued me as to, oh man, I would like to develop a playthrough further into that because that sounds very engaging.
Yeah, the fact that the end game of cult is your character becomes a god in that setting essentially and regains their powers, I think is a cool thing about that game. And as like they progress, they become less and less human because reality doesn't fucking matter.
So mage.
I don't think we will ever play mage. I love mage. I would never put me and Dylan in the same player group, add a storyteller in mage, and also I don't ever want to run mage ever fucking again in my life.
That's a reasonable reaction.
So what I'm hearing is I need to get like neck deep into World of Darkness and learn Mage.
No, you should not let me and Dylan play in the same player group in a Mage game. Like that should be like written in rules. Dylan and Charlie are never allowed to play Mage together.
So what you're telling me is that I should just take a couple beta blockers and like run Mage.
I mean, that's just rules for running Mage to begin with, I think. But Mage is that game I love to hate. I also hate how much I love it. Yeah. And I guess while we're on the cult topic, yes, there will be more cult. I'm working on more cult stuff. Cult is harder to write for than Delta Green is for me because there's a lot more kind of. I try and be very mindful of kind of the lore around all the games we play and kind of properly represent them, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of lore around cult you would be surprised about that. Like, you don't want to show the hand on too much, but like it's definitely a hand on a situation. But yeah, I got something in the works for that. So probably cult in the near future because there's been a request both internally and externally for more cult because we also enjoy cult quite a bit.
We do love torturing ourselves.
There's just something cool about cult. It's cool in the same way Hellraiser is cool.
Yeah, I mean it's spooky shit and like it tells stories that you don't often get to tell. And
yeah, it's also like I play a lot of grounded tabletop RPGs. I like that game is just like fucking reality warping the game if you want to do it that way. Like there are no rules to what you can and can't do as kind of the GM for that game. Fucking go nuts. It has to make sense at the end of the day, but also maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's the point of this cult story you're doing.
Much like how apparently Event Horizon was my gateway drug that led me into Warhammer 40K. Yeah. I feel like Hypercube really is something that I love, and cult just makes sense. Playing cult after that makes sense.
I'm going to save some of the fun, weird ones for the end of this section. Just a question we got. Do we have any potential plans for cameos or guests on the pod? The answer is yes. If we talk to the right person, we're always kind of open to it. Our recording schedule is not super convenient for most people. We've done some stuff in the past with like Extra Life and streams of having guests on. But the reality is we record during the week when lots of people have stuff going on, and the time zone is not necessarily kind of super conducive to the majority of the rest of the U.S. and also a bunch of other countries. So we're kind of SOL on that topic as well. But yeah, it's something we've batted around once or twice, and I've looked into trying to set up once or twice as well. And just from a scheduling standpoint, it's complicated. Yeah, we record differently than lots of other podcasts do, where we kind of record in 2 to 4 hour chunks once a week, as opposed to like big, this is your full-time job recording sessions that happen across like the span of a week or something like that. So getting guests on is a complicated topic. It's often easier for us to, in theory, go on someone else's show than for them to come on our show. The other problem too is the fact we kind of run, like, despite our best attempts, all of our stuff typically runs a couple sessions of recording. So having like a one shot that winds up being across 3 recording sessions means that person has to give up 3 nights across the span of a week to recording with us. So it's kind of a balancing act of that one too. But yeah, it's something we're open to. Just haven't had a chance to, or haven't been able to pull together and make happen yet. Moving on from that though, I occasionally the question, I'm gonna kind of summarize this one. I got 2 for actually, so I'm gonna split this one into parts. A lot of Delta Green missions take place in very unique parts of the U.S. European campaign in the future. I'm fucking waiting on the Pisces book to come out. We might do something with that once it happens. It's in the works. Arcream is working on it. I am literally waiting for the Pisces book to come up before we touch Europe, because I don't understand European spycraft or that type of stuff well outside of CIA, KGB fuckery during the Cold War.
I mean, let's just base it off of Kingsman, right? That's European spy shit.
Doesn't a lady have swords for legs?
Yes. More of a cult thing. You're right. So the other kind of part of this question is, I guess you bring up the whole roadie, the kind of roadie stagehand stuff I used to do a long time ago. And basically the question is how much of that kind of finds its way into campaigns, kind of the travel I used to do as part of that. And the answer is a lot. I think it also plays into we've all been lucky enough to travel around some, and that kind of plays into characters as well. I find places fascinating, and I think I've also bounced around enough places that like finding what sells that place as a location versus just saying, "Hey, we're in Milwaukee. Hey, we're in Memphis," or something like that. It's like the reason food shows up weirdly so often in a lot of the Delta Green things, kind of setting thing, is because food is super regional in the US at least, and you can have some really specific, like, holy crap, they're there because, like, fucking Edict shows up with a bag of deep fried ravioli, which then Jad got to try a couple weeks after we were done recording that operation. It was like, what the fuck? These are real?
It was
Like, yes.
actually tasty.
Yeah, they're good. I'm not making fun of them. They're just kind of gross in concept, and they will stain the crap out of a paper bag because they're deep fried ravioli.
St. Louis was a very interesting city, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like, we didn't get to it in Wellness Check, but, like, the Gatorland stuff is something I associate so fucking strongly with Florida that's what I think of first when I think of Florida before even, like, the theme parks and all that shit. It's the fucking gator farms. I've been to quite a few of them, and I find them fun. Or at least not fun, fascinating.
I think it also helps out that you have been so well traveled because, like, I think I'm not trying to speak for everyone here, but like, I am aggressively West Coast minded, or at least I'm aggressively Californian, unfortunately. So my concept of like the greater United States, the continental greater United States, isn't super strong. You still have to explain different aspects of winter to me.
So, and that's actually super useful, and it's something I have to remind myself of. And as someone doing a thing for a podcast, I should probably be explaining this shit anyway. So the fact that like I have to go through that process with the players is actually kind of, it helps set the situation and kind of becomes a like, yeah, here's, it becomes kind of a secondary briefing as part of the handler kind of leading with some frequency. Like it's, I find it fun to do that because it's like, hey, here's some weird ass shit about these locations, weather wise or kind of like climate wise, that like is important to this operation that may come up later on, or maybe kind of an important detail to keep track of that like I know about because I've been on the coast of Lake Michigan in January going, holy fuck, it is freezing out here. It's weird. I find kind of like the travel blogging parts of the podcast kind of fun, honestly, where it's like, how do I find something that actually explains this in a cohesive and like appropriately upsetting to kind of the game we're playing context?
I mean, like going back to like my travels of just like, all right, cool, I'm visiting St. Louis for the first time. From the harsh kind of urban metropolis or urban sprawl that I experienced to setting down in a place that is lush and green, despite the fact that there is still city and everything else like that.
Yeah.
And then having the juxtaposition of buildings that have been around since before the establishment of California as a state.
Yeah.
Back when this was like Acadian land or like old French, back when this was a French territory, and just kind of experiencing just like how different that was like, oh, okay, cool. These settings that we are engaging with are definitely a lot more fantastical than I can even imagine, just because I don't have that experience.
Oh yeah, I always think back on when kind of this general concept of topic comes up. Like I was doing work in Europe at one point, and I was in a bar that had been an operational bar for longer than the US had existed. Like, I'm not sure what the owner situation had been, but they had been pouring pints there longer than the US had been. And like, it's in the same location it's always been. There's been obviously some upgrades. And like, that's just fucking wild to me, where it's like, yeah, no, like, some of this furniture's been around for fucking ever. It's a Ship of Theseus conversation, but like, this bar's been here that fucking long.
Surprise Delta Green Op, it's the same bar owner since day one.
I have never been able to figure out what game to put it into, but I have a couple things that I've always had like in my back pocket as a game master. One of which is that there is a bar called the Crossroads that's like every dive bar merged into one bar that you can use kind of as like a nexus hub to get around the world, hypothetically. And it's maybe owned by the devil.
We've already had an experience with a house transporting us places. Not too keen on that concept.
I mean, it's not a malicious bar; it just exists. But like, Yeah, it's owned by management, and management is most definitely Satan. And like most of its bar patrons have been there for the better part of like centuries, if not millennia, in a couple cases, because the bar has always been the crossroads where like lost people wind up. Bar changes, patrons don't. That's enough esoteric nightmare fuel. Kind of building off that. Is Agent Quickdraw a Nickelback fan, Dylan?
Is this a real question?
That is a question we got.
That legitimate question, honestly. How divorced is Quick Draw?
So I'm going to come to defense of Nickelback in an uncharacteristic moment because I worked for Nickelback at one point. And give me an actual answer besides the internet told me to why you hate Nickelback.
I can tell you why. I don't hate Nickelback, but I just think that they're kind of bad. And it's because they just sound like a generic rock band.
The internet's hatred of Nickelback, I have, as someone who worked for them, was like, these people are oddly nice and shit like that. Like, as far as people I've worked for on the nicer end of the spectrum, it's always been why the fuck do we collectively think this band sucks? They're not good in my book, but like, there are worse rock bands out there that we're like, yeah, these people are awesome.
Yeah, so Quickdraw definitely is a Nickelback fan, then I'd say that he listens to Burn It to the Ground like regularly.
Every year the Spotify rap lists Dark Horse as his favorite album or something, top 5.
All I know is that like part of the reason he likes it is because of how much everybody else hates
that
it.
Tracks. Okay, yeah, that tracks. We've already established he's a big Affliction fan.
I forgot about the Affliction.
Chad Kroeger marrying Avril Lavigne was a cover-up to hide the fact that she was replaced. And that is and the fact that after that marriage, Avril Lavigne's like music tanked severely is why I do not like Nickelback.
Fair enough. Conspiracy theory, just don't think they're good. What do you got, Alex?
I think they absolutely are, but I don't know. Nickelback isn't bad though. Like yeah. I'm kind of in that house of like, they get a bad rap. I would say, if anything else, they gotta be more fans of like Whitesnake or like some hair metal.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Keeping with our Quick Draw's the worst, you're saying Nickelback's not bad enough to fit into our existing Quick Draw jokes.
Right? Like, okay, not Nickelback. Okay, here's the way to explain it to make Quick Draw even seem like a more worse like person. They've been explaining why Cherry Pie is a problematic song, and they like it even more.
Yeah. Whatever he can do to be like contrary and upset people, he loves to do.
That's fair.
I'm also more of a Creed person than Nickelback.
Like, actually, Quick Draw would have hung out with all the metal artists alongside Sam Kinison during that era of like music.
100%.
And if you don't know Sam Kinison, there is some lore around Sam Kinison, like the metal side of like what he enjoyed. But I would say he very much caught up in that controversy. He would have made an appearance in that music video he did.
Fair enough. All right, we've been through most of these. What else we got left? Well, I prepare myself for the final ridiculous question. Any upcoming tabletop RPGs we're especially excited for, or kind of stuff on the horizon, tabletop G-ish, that we're individually kind of interested in?
Yes. It's a silly one that I might pull out on us at some point.
Oh, God.
And I think I linked it a while back, but it was called Wrestlemania. I don't know if you remember this one. But the premise of it is it's a Castlevania type game, except whoever, like, I don't know if it's actually Dracula. Yeah, Ultra Dracula is the villain. It's a Metroidvania tabletop role-playing game where you play wrestlers, and that's the only way you can do damage to Ultra Dracula.
You got a body slamming?
Essentially, yes.
There are so many tabletop RPG buzzword red flags going off in that sentence.
How do you do a Metroidvania game,
right?
As a tabletop?
I will link
how
it.
am I going to backtrack? How do I
I don't
backtrack?
know.
Will there be wall chicken?
I remember reading about this and I was like, this sounds amazing. And so at some point, I need to figure out how we're going to play this. If it's actually a tabletop game, but we'll see.
This does feel dangerously tabletop RPG. It's actually a board game, potentially. We'll keep an eye on it, I suppose. Don't like you having that just chambered, ready to go. I fear that.
Yeah.
Anyone else got anything on that topic?
I did have one more, but I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it yet.
Say it and I'll let you know.
Okay. You can actually, we'll make it interesting for the recording. If I'm not allowed to talk about it, you can just bleep this whole section out real quick.
Fair enough.
Were we going to do the fantasy-based Delta Green game at some point? You talked about that. There was some fantasy game you talked about.
Yeah. Fuck, Dark Company or Black Company, whatever it's called. Yeah. That's a known thing. Yeah, we're gonna mess up. That will go through a play test at least. I'll probably be the one to run that, so we'll probably record that. So that may be a thing we wind up doing. But yeah, that's definitely on my radar as things I am curious about.
Yeah, I didn't want to just say it bluntly.
Yeah,
and
no, the more I've read of that thing, the more intrigued I am by it. I kind of like how combat is so divisive in that game. I may be misremembering. I think like all the pre-gens for that game, there's like 6 of them for the playtest, and not a single fucking one of them is a magic user. I'm like, hell yeah! Fantasy game without magic users, fucking finally.
Oh, that's my favorite.
I know. I think there's gotta be magic users eventually, but it's gotta be more kind of like I didn't read more if I speak too openly about it or kind of hypothetically about it. The setting, the books those are based off of, and just kind of the general vibe of the playtest definitely leans more in the direction of like utilitarian magic and not like grand sorcery. It's like I learned to make fireballs. Why? It's fucking useful being able to throw fireballs at shit. It's never gonna be the big fireball though. I don't know.
This is okay. So I did actually have a thing that I was intrigued in. I recently just read the book The Octopus by Frank Norris. It's a book from like 1901. It's based off of the Muscle Slough tragedy, which was like a conflict between like the railroads and California farmers and stuff. And that kind of got me thinking about like I kind of want to do something in like set in the early 1900s, and whether or not that would be like a Call of Cthulhu thing.
Yeah, that'd be a Call of Cthulhu thing then. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think we touched upon Call of Cthulhu. We never really like dove super deep into it, but
we've not. You and I have played Call of Cthulhu together. We've not messed with Call of Cthulhu on Negative Modifier yet because I just think Delta Green's better in a variety of ways. But it's playing some COC has been something on the list of things we probably should do at some point, specifically because you go back far enough, and I think the kind of the less aggressive, more introspective thing COC has going on works a little bit better. It's mostly been hampered by the fact there is a book for Call of Cthulhu that is basically the source book for the Great Depression called like Children of the Storm or something like that. That's been out of print for a while, and I cannot find a copy of it, and I really want it. And because Call of Cthulhu stuff set during the Great Depression is fantastic.
I would be really engaged to like set off a team of like Pinkertons.
Yeah,
that get caught up in some dumb shit.
There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with the kind of old-timey time settings. I don't love default era Call of Cthulhu, and it's mostly because I think the Great Depression, at least for the America-based stuff, is so fascinating because it just opens up a world of like everyone was desperate enough to reach out into something they don't understand. What the fuck was the American heartland like when people were contact an old one desperate?
It's like, how come this farm is succeeding while everyone else is?
Yeah. You're getting to kind of the cool thing. Like, also, like, man, we have all these like refugee camps that exist of people who are just kind of become transient workers and stuff like that. What would happen if like 12 of them went missing? Would anyone actually notice? I got this human sacrifice to keep my corn growing I need to fuel. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with that setting at that time period.
It was the Octopus and Michael Crichton's Dragon Teeth. I think I was reading like another thing that kind of inspired me too, but it was basically like the advent of archaeology and how the fucking like searching for dragons or like dinosaur bones and shit like that was such like a wild ass west.
Oh yeah, you and I talked about this. The whole like not the war, but the fact that like hunting dinosaur bones was like dangerous and cutthroat and full of robbery.
Yes. I think I like just touched upon it. We were still talking about like book club. We really need to record the next episode of the book club.
Well, yeah. The second Night Lords book isn't going to read itself, Chad.
I thought it was the Ballad of Black Tom.
It's Ballad of Black Tom. Yes, that's next.
Okay. I was like, oh shit, well give me a hot second because like I need to reread something real quick. But yeah, whether or not you want to run an early 1900s Call of Cthulhu, or once we finish Vampire, I can make that the next project. I think that would be really fun.
We'll see how stuff goes. Yeah. Anything, Dylan, you're looking forward to?
To be honest, not super excited about anything that's been announced.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm waiting for stuff to kind of finish running its course from Kickstarters so I can see where I'm at with things.
You know, I have one other thing I'm looking forward to that is tabletop related.
Oh no.
I'm looking to the new wave of links of creative dice that Charlie finds throughout the year.
Oh, it's it's gonna be such a good year for dice based on some stuff I got sent some early previews for because I own so many fucking stupid dice. I don't even send you the truly egregious ones. That's the worst part.
Here's the thing. All the ones you've sent me have been fucking bangers. Like, they're awesome. I don't So, but anyway, yes. So for those of you who are unaware, Charlie used to find, or still finds, these very unique, like, dice sets, or like just dice you can buy from like Kickstarter and all that stuff. Yeah. And then we were talking about it randomly in a discussion earlier in the year. And at some point, a group chat was created because I was interested in receiving them. And then occasionally, when Charlie finds them, the group chat gets notified of new dice, and they come directly from Charlie's kind of discoveries on the internet.
If listeners want this to be added to the Discord, please let me know. I will happily make a channel of all the bullshit, ridiculous dice I find on crowdfunding sites and stuff. But good God, do I find a bunch of them. I am probably the dice goblin of the group, but also like the dice I get excited about are the fucking dumbest dice ever. Like, they are so bad as dice. It's amazing.
They're pretty dope, not gonna lie.
Did you want it back in that clock thing I found?
I didn't, because I think around that.
I know. I was like, man, I kind of want this, but also no. But also, like, as someone that owns a pocket watch, that's also a full collection of tabletop RPG dice. I'm not sure I have any legs to stand on.
So I was going to back it, but I didn't ultimately, because I had bills that ended up coming through that was like, I can't justify buying it. Like,
yep. That is the lament. Yes.
I bought that revolver, the brass revolver dice set, and like legitimately I have no other drive to purchase anything else because I have hit perfection and I do not need to explore further.
Did you get the fancy one with the spring-loaded opener for it, or the original one you and I found?
The original one.
Yeah.
Has anyone played the Hellboy RPG?
Does that exist?
Yes. So there's a Hellboy RPG, and like, because part of me was just like, as you were asking that, like, I was thinking to myself, is there a BPRD RPG? Because I feel like a BPRD RPG would like vibe really heavily.
I mean, it's called Delta Green a little bit, or Pulp.
Okay, sure. But we're getting into like deep mysticism shit, like folklore stuff. That's not Century Danny with a fucking tinfoil hat.
That's fair.
Like,
where it's
shooting out math lasers.
Yeah, that's probably like Triangle Agency at that point or something. You're touching on why I like Hunter as much as I do, because it fills that kind of Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, a lot of the other games I love. Like, you go mad slowly facing it. Hunter, you are fucking vigil ass antis doing vigil ass antis shit against the supernatural. And yeah, you go a little bit crazy, but also like you're more resilient in face of the horrors, I guess. It's like, yeah, we're here to kill some fucking vampires. Why? Because they're fucking vampires.
Halloween 2026, Hunter one shot.
We'll consider it. Good schedule winds up being. H5 is really fucking good too, I think.
You keep talking about Hunter.
I like Hunter.
And I know that you want to play Hunter as a player, probably.
I just like Hunter. I love World of Darkness. I love Vampire the Masquerade. I don't particularly like Werewolf. I don't super love Wraith, but I love the kind of lore around all of them. And outside of the super annoying mega splats that are like, oh, you can play a werewolf and a vampire and a wraith and a mummy and a freak show all in the same campaign. Hunter does the best job of unifying them. And as someone that sides Technocratic Union when it comes to mage stuff a little bit, no one should be surprised I side Hunter in the World of Darkness of everyone, you could be these cool mystical creatures. That's cool. I want to kill all of them. Why? Because they're fucking dangerous. And I like humans versus the supernatural.
I keep falling down the slippery slope of World of Darkness, but I draw the line at Mummy.
That's a good line to draw. Yeah. I don't like Mummy's lore. I also love Mummy's. No, that's a whole other separate podcast episode.
Mhm.
Yeah. If people want the dice, let me know. I'll make a channel for that in the Discord and we can have the bullshit dice finds that exist out there. They are truly bullshit. But to close off this episode, I'm going to ask a question I know I'm going to regret that was brought up jokingly on the Discord channel as part of the roundup of questions. What does the cast think of ska?
Oh, well. Pro wrestling and ska are the last true art forms left in the world. Everything else has just been riddled with slop. And honestly, rest in peace, Chain Reaction, OC's little tiny hardcore venue that was also secretly a church, where I bummed my first cigarette at like 15, 16. Like, what are we kind of dipping into like the new post wave count ska of the now, or are we kind of like,
I fucking don't know.
Because like there's so many like weird like ska revivals or whatever the hell have you, but otherwise, like, as somebody who really fucks with second wave ska and some ska punk, like, it's kind of difficult to really make a pinpoint, because sometimes it's like, dude, like, it's too much, or it's just, it feels like it's not really like finding its harmony with like hardcore ska. Big D and the Kids Table, iconic, but it's like not my jam. I find myself more of like a Streetlight Manifesto, Catch 22. I understand that it's all the same band and whatnot, but really you can't, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, damn, kind of wish I was more local to New Jersey, because I feel like that scene, I feel like the East Coast, like New England ska scene, was far stronger than the Southern California ska scene.
Our punk scene was different too. Yes, my answer, for the sake of the joke and the long-run joke amongst the cast, is keep that shit away from my fucking ears. But in all honesty, there's a couple of bands I like with all music. There are outliers from a genre I typically don't enjoy that I'm like, yeah, I like them. Like, is Go-Go Bordello technically a ska band at this point, or are they their own thing? Because I like them a lot.
They're folk punk.
College. Yeah, I if you told me if it has to have trumpets for it to be a ska band, I'd be like, oh, cool. I don't like any ska bands, but like my brain thinks of Cake as kind of a ska band, and I liked Cake at one point in time. So I don't know. There's a couple bands I like, but for the most part, I'm not a huge fan.
Cake is touring, by the way. I got a notification they're going to be here in Oregon.
Didn't know Cake was even still a band at this point.
They're touring.
I'm
thinking
2 albums
of going.
I like. Ah, fucking A. All right, your last, Dylan. What are your thoughts on this pressing topic of the negative modifier?
I will be completely honest. I really am ambivalent. I don't really listen to ska.
Ambivalent.
Ska-bivalent, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it really isn't my thing. If you knew what my Spotify Wrapped looked like, you would know why, but I'm not about to tell anyone publicly what that looks like, so you can all keep guessing what my Spotify Wrapped looks like.
This is definitely one of those topics that every time it comes up, I can definitely feel Dylan roll his eyes through the audio.
You know what's funny is, much as I talk about, like, I mean, my Spotify rap would shock the fuck out of you guys, actually. Actually, no, probably not. But yeah.
I think my Spotify Wrap would shock you guys.
Player to player, Alex. Player to player, Alex. What is your top three?
Top
of your
three?
Spotify top three. We don't need your full five, but like, what is your top three of your Spotify Wrapped?
Let me pull it up because I don't remember, but I can tell you one of them right now was Sabrina Carpenter. Oh, it's in the app, and I have to install the app. Anyway, Sabrina Carpenter was in my top 5. I can tell you that much. It was probably like synthwave, like dark wave, and then Sabrina Carpenter. Oh, actually, my top played song was a Home Depot beat that someone had me play on stream, and I had it looping for a while. That was the thing.
Is that like a vaporwave situation that you just had going on?
No, I listen to a lot of synthwave. Like I'm very big into synthwave, but I also like girly pop. Because there's a lot of Sabrina Carpenter. Gosh, now I'm gonna have to double check my.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Like Carly Rae Jepsen is my number 3.
Oh yeah, dude, I love me some Carly Rae. Yeah,
Dylan, do you know any of the words they're saying? Because I sure as fuck don't at this point.
I do. Charlie, if you agree to cut out or bleep out what I'm about to say, I'll tell you guys what my top 3 artists are.
I can do that.
This is the redacted part of the podcast. Let's go.
Not even Patreon patrons, apparently.
Okay. I don't know if you guys will know who any of these people are. Jad might. I guess Alex might too, but I'm sure that Charlie doesn't.
Redacted for public safety.
I don't know if that's what you guys would expect, but
I don't know who any of these people are enough to expect anything out of any of this.
I don't really know how to explain that kind of music.
I'm going to look these up, and then I'll be like, oh, okay. I'm confused.
Yeah, it's definitely not what you're going to expect that I listen to.
Yeah, my top 5 is Manchester Orchestra. Big surprise. Number 2 is Bjork, Carly Rae Jepsen. After that is Rivers of Nihil, which phenomenal metal band. Please give them a listen. Fucking Where the Owls Know My Name is like one of my favorite albums ever. And number 14 is the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, because I had gotten myself into a really hard opera kick this year. And I now understand like the art form that is opera. Not like fully, but I read a book called Opera 101. And that's just kind of led me to suddenly opening that aspect of music up.
Well, then, that's the comprehensive answer to what does the Negative Modifier cast think about ska?
You never asked me about my opinion for ska, by the way.
I'm afraid of what your opinion of ska is. And I honestly thought you'd answered already.
Well, let's be honest. There are some real big fish in this pond
Oh,
of
God
ska genre.
fucking damn it. I saw it coming and everything.
Have you just been writing this bit as we were like talking?
No. I was just thinking about it and waiting for it.
We're the Negative Modifier podcast. We mostly do actual play stuff, tabletop RPGs. If this was your first episode, I'm real fucking sorry.
Look. The renaissance of ska may be down, but it's all right because just like ska, we're just gonna pick it up. It'll be fine.
If you'd like to support the show, you can support us on Patreon. I understand if you don't, though, after this last 30 seconds of this episode. I promise most of our stuff is not this. Holy fuck, Alex did physical damage to me with that.
Pick it up.
Yeah, from all of us, thank you for listening. It's been a hell of a year for us. Thank you for being patient with us as well. hopefully enjoy what we put out. We got more stuff coming, obviously. And yeah, look forward to entertaining you in 2026.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
On behalf of all of us at Negative Modifier, thank you for listening, and we do hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are not already a subscriber, please consider becoming one, partially so you do not miss our next episode, but mostly because it helps new listeners find us. In addition to that, if you liked the episode, please consider clicking the thumbs up button below. If you'd like to further support the show, please consider joining us on Discord or becoming a Patreon patron.